Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about the Necrons from the Indomitus box set, the lore behind basically the new models and the reason why the Necrons are attacking that Imperial world. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please let me know what they are in the comment section below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Necron forces of the Indomitus box set. Far from Holy Terra, the dread that blossomed upon Imperial worlds such as Vertigus II was palpable. The cicatrice maledictum yawned wide, and the vast distances separating humanity's empire was more keenly felt as these worlds were suddenly cut off from the guiding light of the Astronomicon. Into this well of fear strode the burnished host of the Necron dynasty. The mining world of Vertigus II was far from defenseless. Though its webs of industrial communes were Spartan, the resources they mined were highly valued. The planet boasted reserves of promethium, as well as deposits of rare materials sold in secrecy to the Adeptus Mechanicus. The mineral wealth was so integral to the region that 7 regiments and 13 armored corps of the Astra Militarum were permanently barracked upon the planet, alongside macroclads of the Scutari from several invested forge worlds and the Vertigus' native defense force. Gunships scarred the skies with their contrails, and high-orbit swarms with Skepticon-class orbital defenses. When the Noctis Eterna fell upon them, Vertigus protection was found wanting. The Noctis Eterna was the veil that shrouded humanity's worlds when the Great Rift tore through the galaxy. The beacon of the Astronomicon was seemingly snuffed out by this blackness, rendering navigation and communication impossible for the Imperium. Vertigus was alone, light years from the nearest aid. The first its rulers knew of their attackers was the simultaneous cessation of signals from every one of their orbital defenses. There were no offers of parley, no overtures of ceremonial respect. The forces of the Necron dynasty appeared as if from nowhere and proceeded to sweep humanity from the world. No dynasty at the time of the Necron's biotransference process was as influential or as powerful as that of Necron. None enjoyed greater prestige or patronage, for the Necron were the dynasty of Zeraka himself, last of the Silent Kings. The dynasty's nobility viewed the galaxy with a sense of entitlement, and their self-appointed superiority to the many races and even to other dynasties was often brutally displayed. They did not assimilate their rivals or seek honorable tribute. The Necron subjected all, annihilating those who refused subservience. During the millions of years they spent slumbering in the cold heart of their tomb complexes, the Necron's once unassailable position of dominance had eroded. Core worlds were lost to the searching touch of supernovas, or failures in power systems supposedly immune to the ravages of time. When the appointed hour of awakening drew near, many of the Necron tombs were slow to attain full operation, and other dynasties overtook them in both power and territory. Only when the cryptek emissary of the Silent King entered the Necron crown world, allowed free passage by its unsleeping guardians, thanks to Necron's dynasty's protocols, were the Necron fully revived. The emissary had brought a message, and the dynasties were given a renewed purpose, a chance to serve the Silent King directly once more. Upon Vertigus, the Necron overlords directed their warriors to utterly destroy the quickly mustered Imperial counterattack. Soulless Necrons and hundreds of phalanxes phased into being from orbiting tomb ships at each mining commune. The guardsmen, Scutari, and even armed gangs of mine workers fiercely defended their world against the invaders, but it was not just the Necron's superior technology that they faced. An aura of dominion extended from each deathly android, as their skeletal forms stalked closer to the line of defenses along macropipe networks. Human minds were fogged, even keeping sight of the enemy became painful, as every instinct screamed at the defenders to avert their gaze. With their cohesion disrupted, lines were breached and corridors shattered by flickering beams of energy and the relentless waves of living metal constructs. Scores of guardsmen fell in bloodless pieces, effectively carved apart by fractal edge blades which blackened and withered the flesh. Many were just as overcome by the debilitating emanations of regal sovereignty that pulsed from their attackers. Some threw their weapons down and prostrated themselves, while others cowered in obedience and uncomprehensive submissiveness. However, no such action would save them from the wrath of the Necron. Some were discorporated by translocation beams, their fate unknown, while others were crushed beneath the uncaring souls of rank upon rank of marching Necrons. There were areas of Imperial resistance that survived the initial assault. Some communes had organized strategic kill zones and bought enough time to retreat into the underground mine complexes. It was a tactic born of desperation, hoping that the labyrinthian wares would afford them defensible fire points or even hiding places. To counter this, scaroptic destroyers were dispatched down the shafts, a passionless drive illuminating their optics as they hunted. The Necron forces on Vertigus II are led by the Imperious Overlord, who commands the cybernetic cohorts, driving them onward with pulsating neural commands and bidding them to obey his ancient and indomitable will. He regally directs the Necrons under his command with strategy, but will not shrink from the clash of close combat if so challenged. An intimidating blade shimmering with baleful light is held in his vice-like grip, and his engineered strength enables him to wield it effortlessly. From the Overlord's sepulchral court, he has summoned forth the most powerful figures to ensure that none can stand before him. The hunched form of the Plantsmancer crackles with sparks of exotic energy as he channels near sorcerous hypertechnology into the warriors around him. In doing so, he overcharges their reanimation protocols and speeds up their return to the fight, reknitting terrible wounds. He is accompanied by his attendant crypto thralls, the blade-limbed creatures mindlessly guarding him from harm. Also maintaining the Overlord's iron grip on Vertigus is the loyal Royal Wardens, who marshal his master's undying servants to carry out the Overlord's orders. The Royal Warden undertakes special missions with a portion of the Force and reinforces his ruler's command in larger conflicts. The backbone of this contingent are the ranks of shambling Necron warriors. Their burnished living metal bodies are dulled and chipped, but they wordlessly follow their lord's command without hesitation, eagerly shuffling into jabbering steps into the teeth of the enemy gun or towards objectives that the Overlord deems vital. Offensively, their implacable advance wears down the most determined foe as they steadily grow closer. Those the enemy manages to fell often return to the fray, reanimating from the grievous wounds to unleash beams and rays as they flay the flesh. In the defense, Necron warriors' immortal refusal to yield denies the enemy any swift victory, embroiling them in a grueling battle of attrition and a sea of heaving reaping blades, where the fallen rise from every would-be death blow. Maintained by the Plasmancer and his genius cryptech kin, the swarm of canoptic scarabs advance at the forefront of the Necron force, to the sound of dirge-like drones of metallic wing beats that herald the Overlord's presence. Their speed and maneuverability allows them to counter the enemy's own swift assets and to engulf entire units that would otherwise threaten the Overlord's more valuable minions. And then the insane and dangerous Scorpec destroyers and the monstrous Scorpec Lord care nothing for the Overlord's magnificent tactical schemes. Their lethality is incredibly useful, and he factors them in as devastating shock troops. Desperate to fulfill their murderous impulsion, coursing through their neural pathways, they scramble forward as fast as they can, their huge blades vibrating across dimensional states. The Scorpec destroyers crash into their victims, spinning and slaying in a frenzy of death-dealing, and the augmented, many-armed form of the Scorpec Lord allows the once honorable Highborn to eradicate enemies both near and at range. Unthinking constructs attend the Overlord's force, their subroutines aiding his warriors or spelling doom for those who oppose him. Shadowing the nihilistic members of the Destroyer cults is the Plasmacyte. Filled with tainted energies, it carefully calculates the moment where it's injecting its crazed charges will most benefit the Necron's ultimate victory. Meanwhile, the stilt-limbed Canoptic Reanimator is programmed to remain close to the heart of the Overlord's forces, where its nanoscarab beams can best be put to use in undoing the worst that the enemy's weapons can inflict. With these forces, Vertigus had fallen to the Necrons. Even before its remaining human defenders were overwhelmed, the cryptex of the Zeracon had begun work on the dynasty's true purpose. Before the Great Sleep, they were recognized as the greatest artisans of Blackstone in the Necron Empire. Cryptex patronized by the dynasty's nobles had discovered more of its secrets than others of their kind. The Zeracon's artificers could manipulate it through interdimensional planes and enfolded geodisc matrices. On Vertigus, conclaves of Cryptex channeled vibrant beams of energy into the surface of the mining communes. From deep underground rose semi-liquid spears of black stone rippling upward. More pillars appeared from thin air, phasing into being in shafts of sickly light as they were beamed from the Necron ships. As each settled into form, their tips soared to the skies, where clouds were twisted unnaturally. Vertigus was the final link in the Silent King's design. It was the last nodal system in a zone of stable space so large and so maddening in its complexity as to defy human comprehension. The Pariah Nexus was activated, its systems would be stilled, and the Zeracon Stellar Ascension would be unstoppable. And those were 40 facts on the Necron forces of the Indomitus Crusade, or the Indomitus box set, I guess I should say. Thank you guys so much for listening. All this new stuff from 9th edition is really like making me want to go out there and like build and paint and actually start working on my army, and I hope it does the same to you. I'm going to do the Ultramarines version of this, so like why the Ultramarines are there, even though it's pretty simple. They're fighting the Necrons, right? But yeah. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get that, if it's not already out. Thanks so much for listening, guys. More awesome lore to come. And yeah, talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.